Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm gonna warn you up front, I've been up for about 24 hours. Such is the life of having depression and ADHD. Oh goodness, isn't it a beautiful thing to be alive? So, today, I think it's a good time to do an update on World War III, right? We are in what is called a quote-unquote Cold War with China, right? Even though the Biden administration is upping the amount of spending that they're doing on military, just like Trump did, even though it's just losing its mind in this idea that we can bomb the world. We're supposed to call it a Cold War with China. Okay, we'll call it that. Seems pretty spicy to me. So the recent news is the big scandal in Belarus, right? So I'm going to be straight up with you. When I heard about Belarus, I literally didn't even know what this place was. That's an embarrassment for me. I consider myself a person who can find places on the map with reliable consistency. And when somebody said, yeah, big scandal in Belarus, I was like, there's a place called Belarus? So I did a bunch of research, hence the staying awake all night. And this is essentially the story that I found. So, the president, Lukashenko, has been in power since 1994. The people love him, right? The people are fine. They consistently vote for him in the elections that they have, which everybody except for the Americans and the Canadians seem to think are completely fine elections. This is probably largely due to the fact that much of the industry in Belarus is still state-owned, right? Lukashenko kind of maintained the Soviet infrastructure and didn't privatize a whole bunch of it, right? Because privatization is a form of fascism, and I suspect as a Soviet, he thought that that was probably bad. So the big scandal that's happened is that he has a quote-unquote political rival, right? Roman Putasevich. What a time to forget this guy's name. Oh, how embarrassing. Can you tell I've only read it? I said it out loud a couple of times. Roman Putasevich. Embarrassing. Oh well. So Roman was on a plane, right? He's the Western media is reporting him as a journalist, right, and a political opponent of Lukashenko, and he's on a plane. Lukashenko has the plane taken down, and they arrest him, and everybody's like, this is exactly the same as when Julian Assange was arrested, except when Julian Assange was arrested, it was for revealing war crimes of the empire, and when Roman is arrested, probably because of his ties to the CIA and neo-Nazi organizations within Belarus. Just gonna put that out there, that this guy worked for a CIA organization called Radio Free Europe, and also has ties to groups that have ties to neo-Nazi organizations like the Young Front, right? So just putting out there that there might be some small differences. So why in the world is this a scandal at all? Okay. Before I get into that, you gotta like, you gotta share, you gotta subscribe, right? Patreon's down below. If you wanna get organized, Socialist Action down below. I do a live stream 6 to 9 every weekday. Please follow my stuff because I feel like I'm the only person that's actually reporting on World War III in a way that makes any goddamn sense at all. So why does anybody care about this, right? This is a minor scuffle. Why is Canada getting involved? And the United States is commenting and all this kind of stuff. Like there was a literal coup in Burma, and the United States was like, seems to be putting up far less of a fuss about the coup in Burma, or Myanmar if you prefer. But a minor political incident that has somewhat been reflected in the Assange case. Oh, well, now this requires sanctions and international this, and we need involvement in all of this. And do you think it might have something to do with the fact that the Belt and Road Initiative coming out of China runs straight through Belarus, straight into Minsk, right? To understand like the militarism that's going on in America, you have to know about the Belt and Road Initiative. Not only do you have to know about it, you have to concrete it in your mind that this is completely central to what's happening on the world stage right now. The Chinese are building a series of roads, railways, high-speed railways, no less, specifically so that they can link trade routes up into Europe. They're attempting to build roads currently up from Iran, Tehran, and up through Turkey. Not quite built yet, but they're currently in the middle of construction. So right now, the only inroad they have to Europe is up through Russia, into Minsk, right, through Belarus, and into Europe. So the Americans are attempting to do what the Americans always attempt to do. They're attempting to turn a minor political incident that has occurred within the borders of a small state into the casus belli for their interference in their internal affairs, right? So they want to put sanctions on Belarus. They want to make sure that Belarus can't get anything out of its borders, because if Belarus can't get anything out of its borders into Europe, China can't utilize the Belt and Road Initiative, right? The backbone of their strategy moving into the future, which is giving China an enormous amount of dominance on the world stage. And what else is China doing? Because America is terrified of China right now. America is terrified of China right now because China and Russia are releasing a currency of their own. They're creating a currency between the two of them, and they're releasing it into the world. What is this going to do? It's going to completely undercut the American petrodollar, right? The American petrodollar is the world reserve currency, and the fear is that this currency, coming from China and Russia, is going to begin to get traded throughout Europe. Simultaneously, while this is happening, the EV market, the electric vehicle market, is poised to completely explode and completely undercut the fossil fuel industry entirely, right? I've listened to lectures given by people who are saying that the transition to electric vehicles could happen as rapidly as 2 years from now, right? It could just flip over and just be completely done, because the market is shifting so that it's actually cheaper to have an electric vehicle. Because the American dollar is tied to oil, this will crater the American dollar right when the Chinese and the Russians are standing there with their own currency, as well as huge chunks of high-speed rail going into Europe, coming out of the major manufacturer for the world. This can only lead to extreme isolation of America. That as America isolates itself politically on the world stage, it's also isolating itself economically as its currency collapses, as its citizens rebel against it directly, as it loses the capacity to defend its interests militarily overseas. The American empire goes into a decline. And so their reaction to this, they can't have a direct military conflagration with China. There are nuclear bombs in play. There's absolutely no reason they can do that. But what they can do is create problems for the major choke points and trade points for Chinese trade, and that's Belarus. I love this story. I love this story. So the Americans are trying to infect or invade or somehow create regime change in Belarus using CIA operations like Radio Free Asia and supporting far-right fascist organizations like the Young Front, getting people like Roman to try to overthrow the state and through any method possible. And then when the elected president of the area does something about it, we declare that this is a major problem and that something must be done, and liberty and justice and democracy and all of this has to prevail. And they can create a sanction that is so tight that they lock down the border of Belarus, right? If the EU decided it, they could cut off Belarus, but if they did that, that would cut off the trade route into China. It's unlikely it will happen that way. Belarus is under sanctions currently. And so this leads to the big question, right? What happens when a country like America, right, which has no manufacturing base anymore, literally the only thing they make are bombs, right? That's the only stuff they're making. So what happens when a country like America, which has no manufacturing base, which creates no goods for themselves, right, which has historically used outright slavery and theft of other people's resources in order to perpetuate their empire, what happens when their economy collapses and all they have left is the largest nuclear stockpile and military in the world? Not to mention the largest police forces in the world. What happens, do you figure, when the empire can no longer be maintained? That's the big question. Do we believe that America will simply lay down its arms? Do we believe that America will simply say, and Canada too for that matter, do we believe that North America will simply shrug its shoulders, declare defeat, lay down its arms? Or do we think it's far more likely that, like a squalling, childish baby, they will embark on military adventurism that is doomed to fail from the outset, but will maximize the pain against the perceived enemies of the squalling giant baby? And in glorious combat, the empire will be completely defeated and embarrassed, as it always has been since World War II. Vietnam is a socialist state. They failed. That's just the truth of it. Well, this is the end of this video. Under these circumstances, guys, you are really doing wonderfully. You're making good decisions for yourself and for the people around you. You're living a beautiful life in the world. Try to get outside, try to enjoy some nature. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe this channel. Come to my live stream 6 to 9 every weekday. It's going to be a weird one tonight. You are a divine being, standing in divine energy. We could use some of it right about now. Good luck. We're going to need it.